Right, good morning. We're so glad that you could join us for the eighth webinar in our Risk Management for Veteran Farms and Ranchers series. We're very excited to have today a national presenter, Joe Ricker, founder of Addie's Orchard and the AgriBility Veterans Outreach Coordinator for AgriBility. We're going to go ahead and get started. If you are joining us live, wonderful and welcome. If you're watching this recording, thank you for accessing this resource, and we're really glad that you're here. So just a few tips to make your experience a little bit better if you're having any issues. It helps to close other programs that are running on your computer just to increase your bandwidth a little bit. If your sound is strange, you can check your audio settings up at the top of your screen, maybe switch microphones or speakers. If it gets really bad, you can always call in on the call-in number and listen in while watching your screen. We are going to be accepting questions throughout. You can type questions into the chat and we can answer them in real time. And that would be a great way to do that. And then we are recording this webinar and we will be posting it on our YouTube channel. And if you registered for the webinar but weren't able to watch us live, then you'll be receiving that link in your email on how to view and access the webinar later. And I've been having some computer issues myself, so hopefully everything keeps going for a minute until we get Joe on. And then just another quick reminder that at the end of the webinar, there's going to be a very short survey. It's 3 questions, I think, and that will really help us a lot as we report back to our funders about this project. So welcome. University of Idaho and the Farmer Veteran Coalition of Idaho chapter are committed to improving the economic opportunities and quality of life for military veterans who are choosing agriculture as their next mission. This webinar is part of a larger project between University of Idaho Extension and the FVC Idaho that's aimed at reducing risks for military veterans engaged in agriculture. There are many kinds of risk involved in agriculture, from production to marketing to legal, and to the human risk that comes with farming. So this project is funded through a Western Extension Risk Management Education Center grant. And we have been really taking a multifaceted approach to addressing production, marketing, financial, legal, and human risk management education. And our target audience has been new and beginning veteran farmers and ranchers across the state, but we've been joined by plenty of experienced veteran farmers as well. And our project has included monthly webinars like this, a series of 10. So we're at number 8. We've got 2 more to come. And also a great podcast series. And we have been hosting regional in-person workshops and tours all around the state of Idaho. So our team is myself. I'm Ariel. I'm the Area Extension Educator for Community Food Systems and Small Farms for University of Idaho Extension. I'm located in Boise, but I work statewide on these kinds of issues. And then joining me as my teammate is Connie May, who is a retired Air Force. She's been our program coordinator for veterans programs for about 5 years now. And she's also the current president of the Idaho Farmer Veteran Coalition. So we're here to help you. And if you have any questions about anything in this project, please feel free to reach out to us. Just a little bit about who and what the FVC is. So it is a national organization. Idaho does have a chartered chapter. And the FVC, the mission is mobilizing vets to feed America. There's a lot of different programs and opportunities through the national program. There's some grant programs, there are resources, the opportunity to connect, but we also encourage you to connect with the Idaho chapter. We really are looking to build that chapter and connect vets with each other and with important resources. And you can see that many of our members are in the southern and central areas of the state. We have quite a few in the northern part of the state too. So no matter where you are, very likely there is an FVC member in your region. And very special to Idaho, we have partnered with the Idaho State Department of Agriculture and their Idaho Preferred program to enable this Homegrown by Heroes label for agricultural products that are grown in Idaho or produced in Idaho by veterans. You can qualify and apply to use this seal on all of your products. And I think the last webinar that we did in February we really focused on this program. So you can go back and watch that one. So like I said, this is number 8 in our webinar series. You can sign up for one at a time or the whole series. And then also here is our podcast. We'll send these links out as well as a follow-up after the webinar. But the podcast is really sharing the stories of military veterans who are engaged in agriculture and how they have personally mitigated a number of different kinds of risks on their farms and ranches. And Connie has been hosting that and just doing a great job. I love listening to this podcast and hearing your stories. It's been a real positive thing for me. And so I hope it is for you too. All right, so our goals for today, after participating in this webinar, we hope that you will learn more about adaptive equipment applicable to agriculture, be able to identify if adaptive and assistive technology or practices and resources can help you reduce injury or continue to farm despite physical limitations, and be more prepared to access these resources, know where to find them, who to talk to if they are needed. And as our special guest is, like I said, Joe Ricker, who's the Veteran Outreach Coordinator from the National Agri-Ability Project and the Breaking New Ground Resource Center. So I'll just read this really quick. In 2022, after serving in the Army for 30 years, Colonel Joe Ricker began exploring his next chapter in civilian life. Ricker joined the Department of Defense's Skill Bridge program, allowing service members to explore opportunities that might fit them as they transition out of their military careers. There, Ricker encountered the Agri-Ability program headquartered at Purdue University and found his next mission. The vision of Agri-Ability is to enhance quality of life for farmers, ranchers, and other agricultural workers with disabilities. As the Veteran Outreach Coordinator, Ricker supports veterans through the Agri-Ability project. And not only does Joe assist veterans with accessibility issues, but he also helps veterans experience agriculture to see if it might be a fit for them as they transition into civilian life. And this was a quote that I pulled from the website from Joe. Our goal is always to make everything in agriculture more accessible for those we serve. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and allow Joe to start his slides and take it away for us.
Well, thank you for that. Let me get my slides up real quick and I'll go through a little bit about myself and about Agri-Ability. Can you see those okay, Ariel?
That looks great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Um, so really, we're going to talk today about a little bit about cultivating accessible agriculture for veterans. And I really believe that the way we get veterans into agriculture, the way veterans do better after service with their challenges, it's all about partnerships and collaborations and making relationships like with the FEC Idaho chapter, the Idaho Extension, Purdue, all those relationships help. You never know where a veteran's going to land. You never know what they're going to want or what they're going to look for. So the more diverse you can become, and that's what I try to do with knowledge, the more I can help veterans when they want to get into agriculture. So a little bit about myself. Back in 2015, I did take the Boots to Business course. That's a course offered by the SBA during Transition Assistance Program. They actually have now turned that into a farmer rancher course now, which I think is really good, a little bit focused. When I took it, it was all entrepreneurship, owning your own business. Now they've taken that and really turned that into more farmer and rancher. It's a variation course for farmer and rancher. I took some beekeeping classes. After deployments and stuff, I found that a lot of veterans were really energized by beekeeping. It helped them mentally and physically. So I took some beekeeping courses at Rutgers. At the time, I was on active duty out in Fort Dix, New Jersey, and I took it out there. About 2017, I bought the property I currently live on. It's about 10 acres in rural Indiana. I then attended some of the agriculture programs for veterans out of the AgVet grant and what Purdue was doing in Indiana. I PCS from New Jersey to Indiana about 2017 and took those on. And then I planted some apple trees. That was an exciting time. Did 200, did 50 more in 2019, got some beehives. And then lo and behold, when I thought I was going to retire in 2020, somebody decided to promote me and I moved back to DC to help out. So I was in DC for a couple of years during some exciting times. And then I heard about a program called DoD Skill Bridge, which is offered for the Army under the Career Skills Program. And Addie's Orchard is a member of the Skill Bridge chain. So if any active duty people are listening to this, feel free to reach out and I can help you out with SkillBridge. So I took SkillBridge with AgriAbility because I kind of started to know them with Purdue and stuff. And then I retired in June of 2022. So right now I'm the consultant with AgriAbility as their veteran outreach coordinator. I've had the specialty crop grant for Indiana awarded twice for about 2 years. Got about 200K from that. Featured farmer for the Indiana State Fair and through a program we have in Indiana through the Ag Vet grant that's executed by Hoosier Uplands. I became a master gardener as well. So now, kind of what's going on or what's in my wheelhouse this year as of January, about a year ago, January 2024, we have two farms in Indiana that we support under a program we called Operation Groundwork. Those farms, you'll see in a future slide, have veterans that live on them. And then, depending on which farm, a couple acres to help that veteran really get a taste of agriculture and see if that's right for them. Our goal when we started that was to really get veterans into a framework to be a farm and own a farm. I think what we have found is veterans come in many shapes and sizes, and sometimes veterans go to these things like the veteran farms or even SkillBridge and find out farming is not for them. We consider that a success in the nonprofit world because it gave a veteran a really good taste of it before they invested in 200 head of cattle or 1,000 acres to figure out that that's just not right for them. So it's experiential for them, and failure in farming is not failure in the program. It's success in the program because it allowed that veteran to figure out it's not right for them. Farming's different from active duty and other military things, but there are, and we'll talk about a lot of qualities that are the same. So we also got the farm to school grant planning, trying to connect veteran farms into schools under the Senator Leahy Farm to School program. I was honored to get the American Farm Bureau Federation Veteran of the Year last year in 2024. And then this year in January, we were selected as the Indiana Department of Veterans Affairs nonprofit partner for 2025. So I think that's to say it's a long list of stuff, but it's kind of the path that I have taken to where I'm at today in front of you. But every veteran will have their own path, to get there. I took the nonprofit realm, and when I sell produce, it's for a donation back to the nonprofit because I have a lot of veterans that help me grow and other things. So some of the impacts we had in 2024 and under Operation Groundwork, having those veterans on the two farms, we got about 60 dozen eggs donated to local food pantries, some whole chickens. We actually have a connection with Purdue Extension, those 4-H chickens that you get that are really cute and in schools in eggs, fertilized eggs, and then they produce a little baby chick. Kids say they can't take them home. We take on the chicken and we either give them to a veteran farm so that veteran farm has a chicken, kind of they didn't have to pay for it, something to experience a chicken. And the other ones will call the roosters and send them into food pantries. And then with some of the improvements we've done with high tunnels and other stuff through the NRCS veteran programs, we've have some fresh produce we produce as well. And we're well into the 2025 season, and I think it'll be even better for that. Last year, we had about 30 in-person or webinar classes, and we had about over 200 veterans participate in there. So here in Indiana, a little different spacing in agriculture than Idaho. We have about a list of about 1,300 veterans that are considering getting into farming or in the farming area already. USDA says we have about 6,000 prior service members in Indiana that we are trying to, capture and get the information to and the opportunities. A lot of it is sharing information about what is unique for farming or the opportunities for veterans, and then encouraging that through other state programs. We had a workshop. Last year's workshop was about 70 people. We had about 80 or 90 people at this year's workshop, and we're doing another one in July. So we do workshops as well and collaborate with other states and other partners. In fact, this workshop we're doing in July is in collaboration with um, Michigan Family Food Systems, as well as Illinois FVC and Ohio FVC as well. So, it's not about the name, it's not about the title of the organization. It's about, having that partner and that connection and all that. So, a little bit more details in there. I think, lastly, I would just add with last year, we harvested about 30 gallons of honey and about 100, 800 apples in the first real season we've had apples on the trees. Again, they take quite a few years for the apples to produce. So, we did really, good amount of apples last year. So kind of where we're at as a business a little bit, and then we'll go into some of the more detailed stuff. Is I have some employees under grants that work for me. We have volunteers that regularly come out and support the nonprofit on the veteran farms, and live on the veteran farms. I think I've found out that the relationships I have, like the label you mentioned with Idaho Department of Agriculture, we have started those with Indiana Grown, Indiana Department of Veterans Affairs, USDA, both nationally and NRCS locally, Agribility, Purdue, all of those relationships is, I think, what that once you find somebody in there that's a passion to help veterans really starts to grab on and help veterans. This year, after we get the donations from our partnership as a nonprofit partner with IDVA, we're going to start to give out money in what we're calling the AgriVet Challenge, and we have some more offers out there. So for veteran farms. So unfortunately, I will tell everybody the one thing I wanted to do when I got out of the military was to farm, and it seems like in some ways it's developed more into business stuff than farming stuff. But it's been a pleasure and always successful, and always happy to help veterans out. So it's not a complaint, just a fact that sometimes the business then takes over some things. So a little bit about Operation Groundwork and what we do out there. So we have two ladies at Porter Farm. They do have a current VA disability rating. It's about 6 acres in Danville, Indiana. We have, like I said, the two veterans on site, and it's community supported by the Soil and Water Conservation District. Agribility has had events out there as well as other programs, and that's under we support that Operation Groundwork under the NRCS partnership grant program. We have Jack's Farm, which is about 2 acres in Anderson, Indiana. There's two veterans that regularly work there about 20 hours a week. One of those veterans lives on site, and we do support them under the NRCS equity grant as well. And then Eddie's Orchard, that's where I'm physically located, or where my house is at with my family. And we have the beekeeping, the orchard out there. And then all these programs kind of conglomerate around through messaging and stuff through webinars and invites and podcasts, and supporting other veteran farms offers all over the state. So not only is it these 3 farms, but there's many farms that are ran by veterans that we help out and have had things there like Celtic Glen, Irish Mud, other state events at other places as well. Just a quick kind of story on Porter Farm is it was owned by Harold and Esther Porter. Harold was a Korean War veteran. Esther was a teacher in the local county school district. They passed. They left it to Steve and Kathy Stamper, and they had then met Sarah Creech, who's a veteran, Air Force veteran as well. And they decided to, start a farm on the property that the Stampers were left by the Porters. So we named that Porter Farm. You'll see in front, it's a little bit of a raised bed area, as well as a little barn to the back, a small, I think it's a 3-bedroom house with 1 bathroom, garage, but it's enough to give that flavor of farming in a 6-acre environment. If you see the aerial footage over it, it's got a high tunnel, a little bit of a tree line to it. It has some other things on it, such as cattle Sarah brings over and other things as well. So there's some of the produce they produce. They have some tomatoes, the cow, other assorted things, and they do a farmer's market cart out front. And that's one of the lady's sons out there holding looks like a pepper. So Jack's Farm. So Jack Alexander was this one's the one in Anderson. Jack Alexander was a Vietnam Special Forces medic. It's owned by Teresa and Jerry Alexander. It's a small farm, more in the back, about 2 or 3 acres. We had chickens and bees on there now. We also have just built in that big open space, 30 by 96-foot high tunnel with the NRCS EQIP grant program for veterans. And so our connections there are more 2 years oldish, and we're starting to build those with our Soil and Water Conservation District as well as Purdue Extension, Madison County Master Gardener Program, and other things. And Sarah drives up there once every couple of weeks. I'd probably say every other week, if not every week, in season to help out and give some guidance there. Sarah's been farming with Blue Yonder Farm. That's the name of her farm for probably about a dozen years. So she's pretty familiar with farmers markets and stuff. And she coaches and mentors those farmers. Here's us putting together last year a little bit of the bees you'll see on the right. We did a soil class in the bottom corner. You'll also see in the center where we were putting together some raised beds. So those raised beds are pretty special to us. The reason being is we make those accessible. So if you look at the, I don't know if you'll see my cursor, but if you look at the lip of the raised bed, those are wide enough to sit on, which helps with accessibility for people with bad backs. You can literally sit on the side of it and then manage the weeds or do the work inside of it. So just little things like that when you talk about accessibility. Also, it has a lot to do physically or helps out a lot of people. You also notice under this blue tarp by the shed, we'll call it, is where we have the bees. So with the concrete there, it makes it a little more accessible to people in wheelchairs to manage bees or to see the bees rather than to put bees on a hard surface. There's some benefit to bees rather than putting the bees on a dirt surface. There is some benefit to bees on a hard surface. It helps deter hive beetles and some other insects that nest in the ground and then go back into the hive. So not only is it good for accessibility, but it's also could be good for the hive as well. And that is actually unlike if you see the picture of the gentleman with the bee suit on, that is a long hive. So it's not an up and down hive where you have to lift. It's a long hive, and I'll say it looks almost like a casket with bee frames in it. That way you can individually manage the frames by lifting the top of it, and you don't have to lift an entire box of 60 pounds. So if you imagine a beehive filled with honey, that's all liquid. That weighs probably about 40 to 60 pounds. This way, he only has to manage 1/10 of that out of a 10 frame beehive. Um, and he can manage that a lot easier than he can lifting or moving boxes. He can get to the whole length of it instead of moving any boxes and hurting his back. So we do things in a very cognizant way when it comes to accessibility to make sure that when a veteran comes, we have the opportunity to get them what they're looking for or help them as well. I'll show you some more pictures on that. So I always believe, and you guys are probably mainly veterans as well, that we get a lot of skills from the service when it comes into farming. But I always like to highlight, we learned a lot about risk assessment, decision matrix, presentations, leadership. All those things matter. If you have been in the military and done a presentation for major colonel or anybody at all, that's a very similar function to trying to convince somebody to give you grant money. Leadership is the same way. You have to lead the people that work for you on the farm, make sure that your farm is lower on risk so that you can get insurance. And then there's decision matrix, right? Do I buy a John Deere 3000 series tractor or 2000 series tractor? What do I need for space in between my trees? There's all those decisions that go on constantly on a farm that helps in the future. And I will include, and I think I'll mention it later on, is that accessibility. I'm 55 years old. I'll be physically different in another 10 years, but I'm also the average age of a farmer these days. Where's my back going to be at? Where's my 90% disability on my shoulders? Being able to reach those top trees going to be at. So some of those decision matrix are what's my planning factor and how are my disabilities or any disabilities going to affect me in the future. Um, We've always taken risk in the military with a fallback plan. And I always tell service members, do what you like. If you don't have a passion for it, don't do it because somebody convinced you that growing bamboo is going to make you $1 million in Indiana. Do it because it's something you like to do. Like you like to grow bamboo, or you like to help veterans, or you're into apples or bees or whatever. Be professionally involved. Some of the things that I've learned just with my relationships with getting the Farm Bureau award is there are some good organizations out there that are professional organizations that farmers that you can't ignore, like Farm Bureau. Farm Bureau is always a big advocate for this, or developing more and more advocacy for the small farmer, I'll say, but always an advocate for the farmer and has opportunities there if you want to really get into changing the way veterans are supported by your state. Farm Bureau is a great advocate for state requirements and county stuff. I found out a lot, like in Indiana, we have some laws that allow veterans to get free farmers markets that's been buried for a while, that we've pulled out and have used and have messaged out to other veterans in the area and shown value there. There's always a passion for the mission, so surround yourself with people that want to do the same thing you do. Veterans always drive the mission, right? And get past that, sending off a form like you did when you were in service to get a 4-day pass, and they say fill out block 5, so you change block 5, or they say change block 5, so you change block 5. You send it back, and they say, okay, now you need to change block 6, so sign it again and send it back to me. Just standard government work that you will see, kind of veterans are kind of more used to and push through. Um, and there's a lot of opportunity there. I think everybody wants to see us succeed. I truly believe that. I just think that there are policies and loopholes that sometimes, policies and challenges that sometimes um, slow us down in getting there. But once you get through those and you find the right person, it's very successful. And I always tell people to plan for 5 years. Look out there 5 years, plan for the resourcing they need, put plan for what you want to be in 5 years, and then look along that time frame and pull out the resourcing, and then look for partners that can fill that resourcing. If you have a 5-year plan and you decide in year 3 you're going to want to build a high tunnel paid for by a portion paid for by the NRCS equip program, in year 2 you're going to have to do the application for it. So it's really that planning that we've done in the military is, look at what you want to be, what hill you want to take in 5 years, and then look at what type of resourcing you need to get there. And then look at those programs for veterans like the Farmer Veteran Coalition Fellowship Fund, the NRCS equip program. There's another, Washington has a program called the Dauntless Foundation, does fellowship fund grants for veterans as well. A lot of them out there do it and help out. They want to see success though as well. So, do that in year 2 or 3, start your plan, make it a little bit successful, and make it realistic and creative. We talked about making a plan, talked a little bit about farming accessibility, and I'll show you some pictures on what we do. Um, I always tell people this, and I think I learned my first year was put in for that loan, put in for that grant, have somebody tell you why you didn't get it, and then improve upon it. You may want to do a grant in year 2, submit it in year 1. If you get it, gosh, that's great. If you don't get it, take the comments from the grant or the loan and find out what you did wrong or where you need to be. Don't be afraid to put in for grants or loans now and get the comments back, because the denial is never permanent. You have next year to do it as well. Put it in, get the comments, find out what the agency or organization is looking for, and then build on that. Do the proof of principle. That's what we used to call it in the military. The Army used to call it POP. Start small. I have a flower farmer on my farm in Addie's Orchard, and she has a 50 by 50 space to grow flowers on. And then those flowers, um, she can prove that she can do it. She has an adjusted gross income. She has taxes off of it. She can then take something like that to the FSA and say, pay for, ask for more money or pay for money for things that can help benefit her in the future financially and things like that. Don't be afraid of your story. If you're an extrovert person, tell people you're in the military, tell them your story, tell them what you want to do with your mission statement, why your farm exists. Believe in a vision. And I would also say, if you can't do it, partner with somebody that can. So a lot of times veterans come out, they want to be introverts. They just want to grow stuff on a farm. I would throw out there, if you don't have the skills, and you're an introvert, you don't want to go to farmers market, find someone you can partner with to be successful that has those skills, whether it's a spouse, a child, a neighbor. Partners help you grow. um, it's kind of hard not to be skilled and to be an introvert on a farm if you want to sell produce. So find those partners that have the ability to help you grow. Let's jump into agribility, and I see there's one thing in the chat. Okay, I'll send you the details on that area. Um, Cultivating accessible agriculture. So agribility is a USDA funded through NIFA, that assists people with physical disabilities, not just veterans, continue on in agriculture, whether it's through accident, injury, or just wear and tear. If you have a disability, agribility is there to help you get through it, and I'll show you how they do that in different ways. But agribility is USDA grant funded. It is headquartered in Purdue, is the national program. And then we have state projects as well as affiliates that we work with. So 21 states are funded projects. That's how much the grant allows for. And then we have other states that have programs, um, that will have nonprofit partners or other programs that go out and help people with disabilities that want to continue on in agriculture. So we do at the national level out of Purdue, do provide some virtual assistance and or resourcing for those states that don't have programs. So if your state does not have a program, you know, uh, feel free to engage with Agribility at the national level at agribility.org. Send us a note, and then we can go out and help assess and help find you some resources. Connie May, I know, continually comes to our workshops, and um, you know, we want everybody to be successful across the country at the national program. So here's kind of just not a limit to what we provide service if it's not on there, and we don't really judge the disability. But those are some of the things that we have, some of the areas that we assist with, some of the disability assessments. I know a beekeeper out of California that's a double amputee at the knee. He does a great job out there. I personally am 90% disabled, mainly due to arthritis in my shoulders and other areas. I have bad back. So there's everything in there. I know we have a veteran that has other things such as um, Tourette's, not Tourette's, I'm sorry, he's sleeping impairments where he has to have a um, device to wake him up so he doesn't fall asleep on a tractor. There's veterans and people we've worked with at Agribility with visual impairments. You'll see there's really no one definition of disabled. It's really getting that disability into an ability to help them succeed in farming. We do a few things at Agribility, kind of four pillars. One is direct assistance. So if you're in Indiana and we're able to, we'll do a site visit. We'll consult with you in person or virtually if you're in another state. We help a little bit with business planning. We do use for veterans, we use the Boots to Business Farmer Rancher program. And then there's assisted technology support. We can connect you with your state vocational rehab or other resources, and depending what state you're in. Education, we do a lot of workshops. We just came off in March was the national training workshop. Um, Funding kind of a little bit slowed us down on workshops from USDA, but we'll continue to do those or help sponsor those. For veterans, I'm working on the Veterans and Farming Workshop, like I talked about in July. Resources are online, just a ton of resources. We'll do webinars like this and post them online. You can see about accessible beekeeping and farming and when to take away the keys and all that online at agribility.org. Networking, like you said, we leverage all the efforts we can, like the Connie Mae out in and Ariel out in Idaho. Um, there's no networking that's off the table for us. And then we do, especially in the veteran realm, try to get that peer-to-peer support where there's somebody they can talk to with a similar challenge. Um, we do marketing, and what I mean by marketing is we'll go to state fairs and we'll go to farming events and we'll talk about what AgriBility does and make sure people know we're out there. Whether it's the person at the state fair, or they know somebody that's going to be there, or somebody that's going to be at a farm show. It's sometimes third-party information, or it's information somebody needs, and when they do need the assistance, they know it's out there for them. So a few of the things I do, I think are the four things I've talked about right there. And then we are working with the VA a little bit on a partnership program that's kind of stalled with the new administration as the VA is trying to rediscover itself. But we are in the process of the VA partnership program under compensated work therapy. The VA did have a program called VA Farms Program, went from about 10 VA sites to about five. So the VA has dabbled in farms quite a bit, and we're just trying to encourage that as much as we can across the country. So here's some of the stuff we use on my farm. That's actually the high tunnel and two people that work with me. Um, Chris is the one in the blue shirt. She is the one that's kind of the skills person. She's a out of college fresh person. Got out of college, I think about 2 years ago, done internships on farms. So she's the ag energy for the farm right there. Um, the other person on there is Eric. Eric is a veteran like me. I served with Eric. He's under the ag vet program under Hoosier Uplands working on my farm, and they are harvesting lettuce. But you'll notice that they are on roller seats. So leaning over to harvest lettuce, because you do that a couple times a week, depending how fast it's growing and the nutrients in the soil. It can be quite hard on the back. So what they have are those two garden roller seats, so the rolling garden seats there, which are pretty cool to kind of go up and down the row and help you instead of leaning over, you're in a seated position, and they spin where if the tires would fit between the rows of plants, um, they could do it horizontal to the plants as well. Kind of one of those things to think about too is in the planning, how far are your plants, and if you're going to use a roller seat to put them far enough away so your roller seat goes down the center, goes down the side. In this case, it works just as well if you go down the center of the plant. So I'm going to show you some slides on the AgriBility toolbox. So these items right here are what AgriBility has in its toolbox. And the toolbox is something that anybody can access at agribility.org. Click on toolbox. And it's like a search engine to give you accessible technology. The plans for um, the raised beds are in there, or there are other plans for raised beds in there. Those two specific items are in there as well. That's where I found them from. I've brought them to many displays, but then I had to search in the toolbox to see who sells them. So the toolbox really, and you'll see, is a conglomeration of accessible tools for people that want to continue or be a part of farming, whether they're a veteran or any place. In fact, we get quite a few international hits on the toolbox from people in other countries that want to involve. So after you go to agribility.org and you click on the toolbox AT database, you can search, and I'm going to use in this one a stand plant. This is just a static picture, but you can do it live on the internet as well. You'll see a stand plant, something that helps you plant while you're standing. Hit search, and the next thing that comes up will be just a list of things in groups of five on things that match the search. So, stand and planter is this red one right here. And then you'll see a stand and plant cedar, another type of thing. So these are things where you don't have to lean over or get on the ground to plant. These are things that you can drop seeds down. Um, so it's kind of a tube with a handle on it that opens at the mouth, that allows you to quickly plant plants or other things. And then once you do that, if you click on the stand and plant transplanter, right there, the red tube type item, it'll go into a detailed description of it, as to what it does and what it can do. And then it will tell you in the bottom, like I said, the previous things I had to use the toolbox to find out where to buy my the roller seats from. And you'll see on the bottom where you can buy the planter from. And so these are just things to give you those ideas, those kind of on-farm ideas on how to do accessible things. There's thousands of things in the toolbox that also allow you to build things, as well as not only buy accessible technology, but get ideas on ways you can make accessible technology on your farm as well. So again, the agribility.org has the states on there. If you click on the states from the state services, it will take you to the information for that state. We have the toolboxes, we have resources and flyers and information. There's a very good veteran page there that I continually update to try to show out veteran resources for people, and programs. And then we also have like this right here, webinars recorded from um, discussions as well. So what's next? I always continue to want to help veterans. Agriculture, I think, provides not only a positive environment for the economy, the current environment for small farms and making America healthy again, but it's a positive environment for veterans to recover after many years of service. We'll continue to work with the VA and try to get through that compensated work therapy. And then if anybody's ever interested, we do either virtual or in-person mental health first aid. And you will see my phone number and email for Purdue at the bottom. So, any questions or comments? Happy to answer them.
Well, Joe, that is fantastic information. I'm so inspired by the farms and the teaching gardens that you shared. We've worked on projects similar here in Idaho and want to continue to expand. So I was taking some screenshots and thinking about some ideas and making a list of questions. Um, I had a question. Where might we find some of the designs for, like, say, those raised beds or that chicken coop with the handle? Um, are those your own design?
No, so the chicken coop is actually purchased, and there's a name for it, and I'd have to find the name on it, but it's a purchased item, that's made. I can't think of the name of the company. And then the raised beds, I'd be happy to share. I got the permission of the people that design the raised beds to share that. So anybody can email me if they want to email me at rickert2@purdue.edu. And then there's a bunch of other ideas in the toolbox, as well as chicken coops and other stuff.
That's wonderful. All right. Well, does any of our attendees have any questions? Now's the time. All right. Well, this has been wonderful. I'm sad that we waited so long to have you as one of our guests. All the information you shared throughout your presentation is so valuable, and I will probably be watching this one again, even though I was here now. So
Well,
thank
thank
you
you. Thank you
so
for the
much.
opportunity to talk about what we do and what agribility can do for veterans. Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you for sharing your personal story too. It's really compelling. So as soon as the webinar ends, you are going to see a screen with our quick 3-question survey. We really ask that you answer those questions because, again, we report that back to our funder. And have a wonderful day. Happy farming and gardening. And thank you so much, Joe. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, and thanks again for the opportunity.
All right. Have a great day.
Thanks, Joe. Appreciate it.